to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. We talk a lot on the show about niching, right? But today we're going to talk about a little twist, a little kissing cousin to niching, your value proposition, right? Today's guest, Lisa Princic, believes that your value proposition is one of the key things that you can and should be putting into your messaging and branding so that you can attract the kinds of clients you want for your business. Have you ever sat down and considered your value proposition? And if you have you considered if you're presenting it the right way within your messaging? What I love about what Lisa is sharing today is that you can apply it even if you aren't ready to claim a niche, right? Now, Lisa Princic is a trained business strategist, and she is the host of the Scaling Deep podcast. Lisa's clients turn to her for help with business growth when they are worn out from chasing the next mass marketing trick. But they know that they need to go beyond just word of mouth to grow their business. She is a results-oriented, deep thinker who has an innate instinct for seeing the value of a business and turning that into a pipeline of ideal clients. And before I actually introduce you to Lisa, I want to take a minute to thank our show sponsor, Revel Woods. Revel Woods is your source for premium hardwood and resilient flooring. Using the Revel Woods Selector tool, you'll be able to find curated suggestions for your project that are catered to your exact client's home needs, zip code, style, usage, subflooring, everything. Okay. When you sign up for a free professional membership, you'll get access to exclusive discounts and referral benefits. Please visit revelwoods.com to get started. Okay. That's revelwoods.com. And Revel Woods is our gracious sponsor for our LuAnn and Friends meet and greet that we are having in High Point, October 14th, 2021 at Pandora's Manor at 6:30 p.m. If you have not been to Pandora's Manor, forget coming to meet me and John and everybody else. Come to see Pandora's Manor, okay? This place is gorgeous. And this is a party, and you're invited as our guest, okay? So please RSVP at the link in the show notes right there on your phone in the app, or you can go to the bio in my link tree on Instagram, LuAnn on Instagram. Please join us. I miss you, and I cannot wait to see you. All right, let's hear what Lisa has to say about value propositions. Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is fun to have you, Lisa. I've been listening to your podcast, and of course, we know each other, our common friend, Carol Cox from Speaking Your Brand, and listen to you on her show and all the things. So it's fun for me to finally get a chance to talk with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You said a thing to me. People don't necessarily know their value prop, number one, and sometimes they don't know what is a value prop and why is it the map to your business. Tell us a little bit about this, Lisa. Get us going.
Okay. So not to turn anyone off immediately by hearing like jargony terms that they don't relate to, but I think it's important. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me and just think about your business in terms of a business and not just like an art or the thing you do or a skill set. And what I love about the term value proposition, which is really just the exchange of value, the thing that you do for people that they will pay for. And it has to be unique and it has to have some clarity around it. So yes, design has a lot of clarity around it. But in a sea of designers, it's not crystal clear how they're different. And you never want to be just the person that's the closest in geography or the cheapest. And there's all these factors that make knowing your value proposition, your uniqueness, more compelling and make it more likely that you will get chosen over other people. So not paying attention to it is just kind of almost like having a hope and a prayer for a business.
Mm.
Knowing what that is going to help you look at your business more like a business and less like a thing you do. And when you start to do that, you've got opportunity to grow and scale because you can repeat it. And when you can't repeat what you do, you can't really grow that easily because everything's just custom and one by one, which I know design is custom and I know clients you can give personalized services quite easily. You still want to be able to stand by a certain reputation or do some predicting revenue and things like that to help you run the business better.
Love, love, love all of it. And what I'm hearing you say is for us here at the podcast, we have what we've called our Fred Burns only. We've have our Nancy Ganscal for niche is rich, broad is broke. And what you're saying is just really consciously understand and convert that what we've termed as a like almost a colloquial or casual way into thinking of it as non-negotiable for your business. Like what is truly the value? So we want to say you're Fred Burns only, but that really has a backbone and a foundation based in business principles that are going to create more business success. Is that what I'm hearing you say, Lisa?
Yeah, and if you think about it, it goes back to businesses that have more at stake. So this is what I find really interesting about service-based businesses is that we start a little bit casually. We just say, I want to do this thing. And we don't
Yeah.
really think about it as a business. But could you imagine a business that is planning to have, huge growth, or they're asking for a lot of venture capital funding to get started? They have to prove themselves before they go to market, right? So
Mm.
they're figuring out their value proposition before they are just like setting up a shop. They have to know that it's going to get traction. They need to really do their market research to some extent, but also just like really get clear on why are they different and how are they going to be successful before they'll get any funding. And we don't do that. I mean,
Right.
I was the classic became a life coach in 2008 when nobody knew what that was. And didn't have a plan for the business, and that hurt me. That was painful of me realizing, 10 years later, okay, it was a little earlier than that, that I really just had a skill set and I didn't have a business because I was just doing a thing instead of standing for an outcome,
Mm.
standing for some kind of value creation. And that gives us less opportunity to go out and create business when we are just reacting to doing whatever for anyone around us.
So, love all of that. Walk us through your, if you don't mind, if you're okay with it, walk us through your before and after realization because that will probably be helpful for those of us that
Hmm.
are trying to imagine, the tangible thing you're describing here.
Yeah. Okay. So my story is long, long-winded, meaning I won't give you all the details, but it was painful. As I said, I really just wanted a lifestyle of freedom. So let's become a life coach. And I'd also had a life coach in my career that helped me immensely. And I knew that it was valuable. So I went out and decided to become a life coach. And of course, I set up the website and did all that. And then over time, I realized, and of course, you sell to everyone you know at the beginning, like it's all the people you know, especially this is not quite before the internet, but this is, before everything was online. And we actually had networking events and all that regularly. So I worked with them. And then I realized that towards the end of the first couple of years that I really, really loved entrepreneurship and I loved business. So I started to niche down a little bit to business coaching without necessarily having a ton of business experience. So that was challenging. It's kind of hard when your heart is in one direction and your experience might have been a
Mm.
little bit around that, but not fully into that. So it was challenging. And as I moved closer and closer to this, I realized someone said to me once, he said, who was working in some of these accelerators and supporting local small businesses, he said, "What is your value proposition?" And I kind of went, "What do you mean? What's my value proposition?" Like,
Right.
frustrated by the question. And it was at that moment that I knew that I didn't know it. And I wasn't able to put that together. And that was a hard truth that helped me realize that I don't have a thing I do for people. I don't have a reputation based on one particular type of outcome or feature or something that is easy to be passed along and get referred. And that was interesting because how do you write messaging? How do you describe what you do for people that is clear and compelling when I mean, that's not maybe one on one. That's more, say, people landing on your website when you don't really know what to say that is. So that
Mm.
started me on my journey of figuring it out. And even though I didn't still jump into anything super specific, I still kind of dug my heels in because didn't feel natural. And but I started to write messaging that was compelling because it really talked to my ideal client and it really spoke to their pain points and the desires they have more clearly as I could. And that started to attract a lot of people through Google, believe it or not. I
Mm.
had most of my revenue in my business as a business coach, now business strategist, through Google searching, which is incredible for a lot of other online entrepreneurs because they just think, what? Like, I'm
Right.
like, yeah, people come to me searching for help and they book a call and hire me.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's because of my messaging. So
Right.
that's copywriting. And that is one way to niche hack, which means you don't have to say, I only work for a specific kind of person doing a specific kind of thing, but you can allude to the type of situation they're experiencing, the type of pain they have, and the type of outcome or vision they have, and that will help them see that you are the right person to help them.
So, right in there, what you're saying is whether or not you call it out huge on your website, I am the interior designer that does sustainable design, say, or eco friendly
Right.
design. If you have enough blog posts and enough information out there, the people who are Googling that and searching that will find you. And then if they love your portfolio and you're in the, all the other things fall into place, now they already know that you can do that because of the writing, but whether your website has you niched all the way down to it is irrelevant at that point.
You don't have to declare a niche if it's unnatural. You don't have to
Right.
say, I only do this if it just feels awkward and you're not passionate about it. I mean, I think it's good to play in those arenas because if it takes off, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
gap in the market, then you might fall in love with that thing because
Right.
it's doing really well for you. So you can play with it through content, like for example, writing blog posts or doing features on certain things or styles or areas. But I also think that just having your homepage copy, really addressing who you are and providing a connection to people, because this is where visual artists are challenged, especially photographers. Like you go to their website and all you see is photos
Mm.
and you have no idea what they're like and you have no idea if they really want to work with you because they're not saying, hey entrepreneur, I know you're really struggling with your headshots and your social and you really need to feel like your photos represent you and your brand. I've got some great tool or I have a solution for you. And then you're like, oh, she's talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we create connection instantly and that's where they stop searching for other people and they get on that call.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
we're attracting them. If we have a niche, we all day long. We've had 1,000 shows about it. Like it really does. It's scary to niche down, but
Yeah.
it really is effective in cutting through the noise.
Yep.
Right. But beyond that, whether it's a full blown niche, you do need to be able to express your value proposition. And that is, tell us a little bit about discovering that and clarifying that for ourselves, Lisa.
Okay. So that is about the place where your ideal clients are at and the outcome and the place where you take them, the transformation that you deliver to them. So that is really what it is. And it sounds intangible, but it is actually fun because you can play with that in messaging. And so some of the key components of that are, here's where my clients are, here's what they're experiencing now. And you think about very specific clients. You think about actual people. And this is where ideal client exercises and avatar exercises to me don't really cut the mold, because it doesn't matter how old your clients are or what category they're in. If they are experiencing a specific pain point and they are saying, yes, this is my problem, this is where this is what I'm agonized by, and here's what I ultimately desire. And if you can start to address that, they will self-identify as being the right person for you. They will identify as, yes, you're talking about exactly the problems I face in my life, and this is exactly what I want. That's your transformation. And when you can think of your ideal clients, so maybe 3 or to 5 that have been, amazing in every way, you can start to think about, well, what was going on for them when we first met?
Mm.
What were some of the things that they were expressing? What were some of their frustrations? And then what do they ultimately desire? And how was I able to get them to that place in a unique way? You probably find that they have more in common than even their age or location or style. It probably has more to do with that emotional transformation, because people are buying things for pleasure or out of pain. And
Right.
it's that what we want to address. So that's a really great way to start to define your value, is through that transformation. And that can come out in your messaging.
Right. Right. Okay. So, yeah, I'm on board with all of it. I just trying to drill it down a little bit more precisely. So,
Yeah.
not that, look, you have done it precisely, but if it's happens to be only the first time you've heard some of this, then it's still
Mhm.
feeling a little in the clouds, right?
Mhm.
So, what we're saying is, when we think about what our value proposition is, in order to come up with that statement, when somebody says to you, that guy was a business meeting, and so he happened to use the language, like you said, the jargon, hey, what's your value prop, right? But
Mhm.
somebody else, what we're going to be is at a PTA meeting, or we're going to be at a meeting with a realtor or an
Mhm.
architect, and they're going to say, so what's your specialty, or what does your firm do? That's what you're going to hear. And we're talking
Mhm.
about the answer to that, right, Lisa? We're talking about the way, in a very concise, direct way, we look at a stranger and we tell them what we do, who we do it for, and how we do it. And so you said, think about the place your ideal clients are. And when you mean place, you don't mean location, you mean the mental place that they're at. Where
Mhm.
are your
The
ideal?
struggle.
Right, right, right. Okay. Think about where they are. What are they going through? So that's the first thing. And then you said the second thing is, what is the transformation that you provide? Like, what transformation are they looking for? What do you do that transforms them from the struggle? And then ultimately, what is the place, the result that you take them to? So
Exactly. So
that's, yeah.
that's how you describe it. That's the best way to describe any question that's like, what do you do? And I mean, nobody loves those questions because it's asking you to get everything in your head all day long into like a few sentences. But and if you're obviously on a sales call, you're probably asking more, where are they at? And then you're mimicking a little bit of what they're describing and then confirming that you can help them or not. But if somebody is actually saying, what do, you will want to say, I help, people who are struggling or who are interested in this, or desire this, go from this place to that place. And that's where you can create more connection, because they can see the transformation. A value proposition is a transformation. It's a transformation. It means that somebody is in a different place after working with you.
Right.
They're have a different anything. They feel differently. I mean, let's face it, people don't do design if they don't think it's going to make them feel better
Right.
or more in line with their identity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know from my own experience, sometimes I'm like, this place doesn't represent who I really feel like I am. you
Mm.
know, it's an emotional purchase in a way. I mean, yes, there's some practical aspects of it, but there's also the decision is often emotional around like, how does this meet my needs? And it doesn't mean they have to feel very emotional, but they are making a mental emotional decision, and that has to do with what will their life be like? Like, do
Mhm.
they imagine themselves running around with their kids or having dinner parties in their new space or whatever it might be? It's not just a practical like kitchen reno. Like
Right.
it's not, I mean, people do that for a reason. So we need to be more in tune with that.
Well, and I would tell you that probably 99.9, if not 100% of the designers and other creatives listening to the show right now would agree with you that they all know that the emotions are all tied up into the product that they deliver, that they're not just delivering furniture and lighting and rugs, that they're delivering a feeling, a sense of
Mm-hmm.
well-being, right? But the question is, of the 100% that know that's what they're doing, do what percentage know that they need to express what they do in that connection, in that desire, that struggle, so
So they think photos might do that.
right,
Like,
right,
and I argue that it does to some extent, but people rely too much on them
right.
because it doesn't distinguish you from the next set of
Photos,
designer with the next set of photos. Because let's face it, photos look great of
right,
after drawing.
right.
I mean, so they're going to look great, but you can't rely on those to distinguish yourself and stand out and differentiate from competition because everyone has them and they always look great
That's what
when
I
they're
say to them
professionally
all the
done.
time on the show. I don't want to talk about, you're pretty because you're all do
Yeah.
pretty. Like, you all do pretty. Like, somebody's pretty is a little prettier, okay. But, you're in the field because I believe that you're competent and talented and capable. Now let's talk about how you run your business so that you can deliver all that pretty to all of us, right? So the
Well, and
idea
that's
is,
trust, and that's a
yeah.
lot to trust. I just want to point that out
Mm,
too, is that trust is created through words more than it is through photos. It's letting them know that you have. So here are some ways to just slightly, distinguish yourself. You could be ultra nurturing. You could be um, leading edge. These are all really subtle things that we don't really want to we can write down, but we have to kind of give that impression. And like, so is your language nurturing? If
mm,
you are a nurturing person, some people want to be handheld, some people want to feel cared for, others just like, just let's just get the job done, and they want practical and efficient. And you're going to better suit different clients based on your personality and your style. And so that there isn't a way in photos to bring that out. That's design style, that's not
mm.
personality style, which I think does make or break a client experience. If
Uh,
someone isn't working with you at the way that you like to work, it can be, it can go downhill.
right. Well, 100%, because, to your point, we know that we have designers that love the process of taking their client to the market or taking them to the D&D building or taking them to the highway, whatever, and doing the shopping and having the lunch and doing all of the things. There's people that enjoy doing that and enjoy that collaboration and that contact, okay? But if I don't want that, and I don't know from your copy and from your About You page and your process page that you expect me to run around and shop and have lunch with you, we're going to have a big problem if I love your pictures and now I think, oh, I can't do this because I don't want to do all that. I'm hiring you to do that stuff. Like, if I wanted to run around and shop, I would do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we have the challenges with clients, and guess what brings our business down and our enjoyment of it down more than anything is client mishaps. We're
Right. When you
just
are not working with the kind of clients that we like to work with.
Yeah, and we're not attracting them based on how we're presenting ourselves,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we want to make sure that if someone says, "Well, I expected more," or "I don't understand," or something like that, then why this is happening this way, we want to make sure that we feel like, look, we kind of put forward what and how we're going to operate. And obviously, you're teaching people, I'm sure, often on how to communicate and what they're going to get, and the communication is a good thing and setting expectations, but you also just want to be cautious of who you attract in the first place, because if they want more than you're planning to give, then you're going to have a problem. And I think that's where we we have the challenges with clients, and guess what brings our business down and our enjoyment of it down and our our enjoyment of it down more than anything is more than you're planning to give, they will feel that out on your by your branding, by your messaging, by how you describe who you are and what you do, and not just like what you get, but also just that feel for you.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
will be able to understand more of your personality, and that is a real game changer. Again, when my messaging more clearly articulated who I am and what I do, I started attracting the right kinds of clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was almost 99% of the time I get the right kinds of clients.
Mm.
And it has really grown my confidence in my business. And because of that, because now I have excellent client experiences, I have thrilled clients every time,
Right.
which that's the best thing. That's the best way to grow a business is have that confidence, not just hustle, hammer, hammer. It's really about feeling good about the work you do.
Exactly, exactly. One of the things that I notice more often than I'm happy about, and it breaks my heart, when I go to different interior designers' sites and I literally could exchange, Sally Smith's names for, Susie, Wilson. Like there's
Hmm.
just nothing there that even on the about page, okay, so Sally Smith went to, University of, whatever, and this and that and the other thing. But and even worse, when I get to a designer's website page and I don't even find their picture. I don't find their name. The whole thing is we at such and such interiors, we at this, we at that. Now, there's a place for that. I get that. But I've searched every page and I don't know who we is. Is
Hmm.
we, 40,000 people behind the little man there on the website, or is it one person? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Young, old, what? It's crazy. And I just feel like it's sad because who helped them make that website? Like, I guess if you made it on your own, you don't know the difference, but it's
A lot of people don't know how to actually, a lot of designers don't necessarily understand how to create connection and how to convert.
yeah, like the web
It's common.
designers. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's the truth. And here we are, we're hiring a professional, but like I just feel like look, understanding and declaring and spending time to come up with your value proposition, your Fred Burns only, right? It takes time. It definitely does. But to put something out in the world facing that you actually know you could substitute anybody's name for, there's no excuse for that. I don't,
There's no point of
yeah,
that.
it is.
Yeah.
It's useless.
And a website is a strong tool. It is what probably everybody looks at, even if you're very local,
Mm hmm.
even if
Mm
you've
hmm.
been referred, somebody's going to look at it. And you do want to repel some people if they've been referred and you've changed your focus, you've upped your prices since the person that they referred that you
Mm
worked
hmm.
with that referred you, and you want to make sure that it it conveys all that so that you are not getting into those conversations or spending all that time on people who aren't going to hire you. So you definitely want to give off that impression. I mean, and you do it. So website design you can update obviously, and it's not just a one and done, and it can change and get better, but the idea is that this is like one tool that a lot of people are going to see. Just like messaging, I went through a period, and I have actually a messaging toolkit which I use myself to write copy that's just very clear and connects. And I rewrote and rewrote my copy and slightly changed it for probably every month or two. I mean, I didn't spend hours on it, just until it got to the point where people started booking calls
Mm.
and like more regularly, because I knew I was getting found, and there was a point where people started booking calls, and then I up leveled it a little bit again, and then I started getting different kind of people booking calls,
Mm.
more people who were ready to buy, and then that's when I kind of left it alone for a while. Then I was like, okay, I think it's kind of good enough because it's doing its job, and you don't have to keep doing that every day. I mean, it's not marketing. It's conversion and sales. It's down that marketing funnel further. So, and it's nice to have something that really will work for you to do its job, because there's no point hustling to bring more and more people back to you and learn about your brand when they're not converting.
Right.
Like
Right. Right. Right.
it's way more efficient to get them to a place where they're saying, aha, I finally found the right person for me.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
than to do all the work to get more and more people and have a lot of them just go, oh, I don't understand this, because it's that expression, you confuse, you lose. So if someone's not feeling the connection or not seeing their life better off because of you just landing on your website and having that hope and anticipation, they're not going to stick around.
Yes. Well, it's funny. Two experiences I recently had. The interview hasn't happened yet, but there was our process is that you pitch to be on the show, and they put them all on a Trello board. And once every week or 2 weeks, I read all the pitches, and I just put a green label on if it's a yes and a red label on if it's no. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And literally last night, I was reading the pitches. I hadn't done it in a week or so. And it's funny that you use the example of the photographer, because one of the pitches that's in house now, and where I just put the green label on it last night, is from a photographer who specializes in headshots and branding photography. And she did everything you said. She's like, hey, are you an entrepreneur? Do you have tired headshots? Do your headshots just look like everybody else's?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And do you need shots for Instagram? And do you need shots for your website? And blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, I literally read this last night. I don't remember the woman's name, but I can picture her website. I went all the way through it, and then literally clarity all the way to, here's package number 1. You don't have any collateral. You don't know what your brand is. We'll have a little conversation about defining your brand and who you want to be and blah, blah, blah. And then number 2, you have all that set. You just need the shots. And number 3, you want to retouch because we did your shots a year ago, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was like, buy me some of that. Okay. And
Yeah,
then,
like you could picture
yeah.
yourself on the journey. Like
Oh,
you
I
could just see
literally,
the
I
whole
was like,
thing.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna press go and buy, and then I'm like, oh, where is she? Oh, she's in Vancouver. I'm like, all right, and then she's like, I'll fly to you. I'm like, you will? That's awesome.
Oh my God, you got to tell me, because I'm like really close to Vancouver, so I need to find
Oh,
out who
I'll
that
have to
is.
look her up. I'll have to look her up. I'll look it up for the show notes too, because
Okay.
I haven't even met her, haven't done anything with her yet. But I was like, oh, lady, I am all in, and that's exactly that. It's like,
It's a
you
professional brand. It's really
exactly.
professional, and it's not professional because it's high end or
Mm-mm.
perfect or the sort of most, I don't know, glamorous thing you've ever seen necessarily. It's just clear.
Right. And the thing is, I think the analogy to, a designer listening is this, is she is a photographer of human people. She could do weddings. She could do bar mitzvahs. She could do family portraits. She could do corporate headshots where they have 60,000 lawyers that are all going to be on the wall, right? Like, she's capable of doing all of that. You know that to be true. But because she has boldly said, I do branding shots for entrepreneurs who want to be successful, like, I'm there. I'm like, that's what I need. I need more of that in my life. Whereas, if I want a family photographer to take pictures of my grandchildren, I'm going to call somebody else. And that's perfectly fine. She's working with the people she wants to work with. And she doesn't worry about, oh, I could take the pictures of your grandchildren too, LuAnn. And by the way, this is how niching works, right? Because this is how niching works. If I were to hire her and fly her into New Jersey and have her take my headshots and all of the things and a whole new round of stuff for the beast that is called social media, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we hit it off, I might actually say, would you take pictures of my grandchildren if I can get them all rounded up and over here at the office tomorrow? And she might say yeah. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have to say no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you already got that relationship. So the idea is that people will still buy things from you if they get a sense of what you do, even if it's not exactly the same. And that's where people get afraid to niche, because they're afraid that they're going to turn off too many people. But you don't tend to turn off that many people,
No. And
because you're still doing something that's specific enough that they can track what it is that you're talking about, because you're giving them that path, that journey, like the one you just described, like from, oh, I'm struggling with this, and here's, so it's it's in I know in copywriting, it's kind of this like called conversion copywriting, this idea of unaware. So people have a pain point, but they don't really know what the problem is, to problem aware. It's like, oh, I know what my problem is. I need help with my design. Like I actually need somebody to come in. So the pain point is like, oh, I can't stand where I live or something like that. The problem aware is I yeah, the problem is I don't like my place. But then they're starting to look for solutions. So then they're solution aware, like, oh, I need to hire an interior designer. And then the product aware part comes in where they are looking at which kind of designer to hire. Like, what kind do I need? Do I need, all done for me? Do I need this style? So they're really starting to look at what the solutions are. They're much more committed. And that's where you want to spend your time, is trying to stand out with solution aware people who are looking for or product aware, I should say, who are looking for somebody that's going to suit them rather than people who don't even articulate they need it, because that's a lot of work.
Right. So what you're saying is that when we have established our value proposition, our Fred Burns only, where it really works and comes into play is once somebody has gone through the steps of, I can't stand where I live, it looks ugly, then they're like, need a designer. Where it kicks in is at this level, because 20 million people are going to go through the first two steps. I'm actually questioning you, so I'm not making a statement. I'm asking if I understand. So 20 million people are going to go through the first two steps. Hate where I live, need a designer. But when 20 million people arrive at the step of finding the designer and they're out on the hunt, now, Sally is going to say, oh, I just found, Laurent's car, and she's got a very zen vibe, and she's very eco-friendly, and she's green. And then, Susie Wilson is going to be like, oh, I just found Candy Scott, and she's in Chicago, and she's edgy, and she's modern, and look at those lofts she designs. Like, that's where we're wanting to differentiate ourselves, right? So that when the people reach the moment, they can self-select to who they want to work with, right?
Absolutely, because you always want the more buyer aware, or buyer ready. The more aware, the buyer who's more ready to buy than someone who's just tire kicking and checking out. Like, you don't need to try to convince somebody they need design as much as distinguish yourself as the right person for them first. So those are the people who are actually looking. They're actively want to hire somebody, and those are the ones you want to get easily. And then you can spend more time convincing more people locally, perhaps. That they need help.
Right. So,
but that's harder to do.
Yeah, and I love that. That's so clear right there, because I just heard my restaurant analogies that I use 9 million times. So it's like, I don't have to tell people you need to eat 3 times a day. You're going to be hungry at 6 o'clock. You need reservation somewhere. I just want, when somebody at 6 o'clock is hungry and wants to eat, if they think I love Italian, I need them to know about my Italian restaurant. Like, I have put enough information out into the planet through blog posts, through conversations with all the people I meet, that I'm the best Italian restaurant in town.
Yeah, and let them decide that's what they want, rather than convincing them that they want Italian when they don't.
No,
they
right. In other words,
will.
if they decide on Italian, I just have to be there when they think Italian. I don't have to convince them they want Italian.
Right.
I love it.
So that's the first thing you need to do, because that's where you're getting the easy. Okay, so when people look for me for business coach or business strategist, they're ready to buy, because, especially with business strategists, because they want their business model figured out. They want the plan. They want to know what to do, what to offer, how much to charge, all those things that is just, wow, like, I can figure this all out so quickly. And that is, so they're primed for that, and they are looking for someone to hire. They want to hire somebody. So that's a lot different than nurturing a list of people who are not quite sure, they're not mentally ready, or they're not sure what they need. Maybe they think they need a website instead of business strategy. There's all this confusion, and sure, some of them will come around and decide and make that declaration, but that is less likely than the ones who are like Google searching. And that's where I want that copywriting, or that connection. It doesn't have to be tons of words. It just has to be enough words to create a connection. And then,
so tell us, what is your value prop? That's interesting when you just said people find you, the right people find you because of all of it. So tell it, maybe that will also further help us grasp this.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so you're asking the person who has been afraid to niche for 10 years? Okay, I'll be honest. Okay, so my value proposition is actually changing a little bit, and this is what's interesting is I'm actually kind of starting to really walk the talk more boldly. So I've attracted people by just creating connection, like talking a little bit more about, so the first line on my website is, well, this is not the header, but want to find the business model that suits your goals, personality, and lifestyle. So I am mentioning business model right there,
Mm.
meaning I am letting people who are interested in that and know that they need that get intrigued by that versus talking about, are you emotionally ready to start a business? Are you getting in your own way? Like, I don't use the language that might be more around business coach who does life coaching type of
Mm-hmm.
work. It's really strategy. Like, I am there to help you figure out your model. So that's what I do is I help people find their business model, which includes their unique value, clear offers, identifying their ideal client, core messaging that attracts the right people and repels the wrong people, and then their visibility plan. So what can they do in the most simple way to bring more eyeballs back to their brand? That's what the work I do. That is my very clear. It's not it's not in a super tiny sentence, and it's not a four-word answer, but it
No.
is what I do. And when people come to my website, they're ready to read
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does work because as they read further and I address some of their challenges, they are like, oh, she gets what I need because I'm getting more specific on some of the things
Right.
that I do. So
Right.
now I'm niching down a little bit more. I've started niching down even more to businesses who want to grow membership programs.
Mm.
So that has been something, an interesting transition of experimenting, not, well, I shouldn't say experimenting, but slowly stepping towards declaring my bold niche.
Mm.
So I created some content. I created a blog post. I thought memberships is a space where more and more people are buying subscription services, and more coaches and consultants are wanting to deliver value through all like monthly repeatable programs. And there was a lot of reasons for that. And then I decided that was a really exciting business model to help people with. Even though I can help people with any business model, that one felt like there was a bit more of a gap in the market with not enough people, or I should say women,
Mm.
teaching people on this area
Mm-hmm.
in this area. And I tested it. So I wrote a blog post, and put it in a group, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's so interesting. I'm so, thinking about this and all this stuff." So I'm like, "Okay." So I got some validation there. And I got a client instantly out of that saying, I need help with mine. And then I launched, the next thing I did was launch a summit, which was a big move and a lot of work. But it was a show up and position myself and gather more people on my list who are interested in memberships.
Mm.
And so that was a step-by-step process. Then it wasn't until, and that was in February. And it wasn't until, recently that I just went all in and I got my website updated and I said, okay, I'm just going to change my messaging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I am attracting clients still who don't necessarily have a membership or are not totally committed to it yet. So if anything, it's still bringing in amazing clients who aren't hiring me to help them specifically with that thing, but they
Mm.
get that I know that thing and they might be attracted to that down the road.
Right.
So it's not turning off people.
Right. 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 And the analogy again for the designer is that, I don't know, if you do busy, lifestyle design for busy families, it doesn't mean you can't also, if a family hires you, if their baby boomer parents, want to hire you too, you can be referred to them. It's like, but it's just, I guess
Well,
it's finding your
They'll track
passion.
your process. They'll
Yes.
track your
Right.
process
Right.
because if they see that you have a methodology to help busy families, was that the analogy?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
then
two
they
kids,
will,
three dogs, and all the crap, and it's like that's a design. Like designing
yeah.
for that kind of house is very different, right?
So if they see that you have a process for that, they will see the specificity and be able to relate to that and apply that to their own situation.
Right. Well,
If
that's
they
what.
don't see that, they won't get it. It will just be like, meh, meh, meh. Like that vague kind of feeling you get when you don't really get what somebody does and why it's exciting.
Right. Right. It's explaining. It's what you said. It's who you do it for, how you do it, right? And the transformation they get, the result they get when doing it, and then delivering it in, now you're speaking our language in a duplicatable process so that somebody can really understand that you're not just saying you do this. Here's some ways, and I'm visualizing, just like this photographer. Like,
Hmm.
she totally took me through the whole journey. I was like, I totally get it. Like how she could, she was like, you get 2 outfit changes, 3 locations, blah, blah, blah. Like it was a whole like list of deliverables. So to your point, I could see, and why I was so keen to just literally get on the journey with her was because she did just that. She took me
Yeah.
on the journey. She let me see that, oh, if I do hire her for the day, there's all these things that are going to happen. We're going to do, we're going to change clothes 3 times. We're going to go to 2 different locations. We're going to get this out of it. We're going to get retouching. Oh, she's going to do hair and makeup, get a hair and makeup artist. Like she literally was like, I've got this covered.
That's
Like
so
this,
great.
this
And
is going to be done.
it's perfect for somebody. And even, okay, so even if it wasn't what you wanted, it would be so clear that it's not what you wanted. And
Right.
even if you weren't needing it now, boy, you sure remember it. And you
Right.
know to refer her to someone else. And you know that when you need it, who to go and contact
Exactly.
because it's
Exactly.
memorable. And we're trying to be memorable.
Yeah, I love that. And designers need to do that with their thing. You grab somebody's, somebody finds you through a blog post or through a
Mhm.
Pinterest post or, a referral. But when they get to your website, they need to be grabbed. They need to understand exactly who, what you do, how you do it, who you do it for. And then when you can, explain a little bit of that process to that blind consumer out there, then they really can visualize being within your firm and knowing that design is a luxury service, and
Mhm.
I need to understand that you are driving the train, just like this photography. It's a luxury service to have someone take your pictures. Come on, like iPhones take pictures. I can have my kids, my daughters do it, right? But if I'm going to pay dollar bills to have somebody do it right, I don't want it to just be I take pictures, 2,000 for the day. Thanks. Like I got to
Yeah,
know, right?
exactly. Exactly. And you will pay a bit more for something that you're more clear is going to get you to your vision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. We will. We will. We will. We absolutely will. And when you, find the client that's the pain point is we say it's you're going to pay it in time or money, right?
Yep.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Love it. I love it. So Lise, tell us are there, you have your podcast, so tell us, the different resources, the different ways that people can connect with you, reach out to you, find the blog posts that you've written.
Yeah, so I what I'd actually really like to recommend is my Brave Messaging Toolkit. And the
Mm.
reason why, I mean, it's $97. I think it's still $97 by the time this comes out. I
You're
mean,
as
I've got
bad
this
as
on.
me.
It's almost like a mini course, so it is probably worth a lot more, but I just want people to get it. It is a messaging toolkit that helps people start to write their value proposition out in terms of their client journey and
Mm.
their ideal client and your uniqueness. And so I really recommend that if you want a brand that's going to stand out without even saying how or why, just through your own what you know about the work you've done that's been amazing, then this is a great process. So that is at scalingdeep/, toolkit. And I just highly recommend working that out. And yes, learning to write is it's not a instant process, although I have laid out all the templates, but it will help you start to articulate your value a lot better. And instead of coming up with the things that you think that might be a little bit like design speak and too
Mm.
sophisticated for someone, or too solution oriented when they're still like in their emotional state of wanting what they want, you can learn to speak a little bit more in a relatable way because you want a bit of both. You want to
Mm.
relate and you also want to share with them your sophisticated knowledge. You don't just want to go to sophisticated knowledge.
Right, 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 right. We don't want to have someone come and feel like they can't understand what we're talking about before we even have a chance to meet them and all the things.
Or you're jumping too quickly to buy now when they haven't even been quite convinced you're the one to buy from.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point. I love it. So it's scalingdeep.com/toolkit.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, I mean, this was so much fun, Lisa. It was
Yeah.
real fun for me to meet you after listening to you on so many episodes of your podcast.
That's amazing.
That's always fun. So I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate your time that you spent with us today. And I will say, if you speak to Carol before I do, say hi for me.
I will do. I Voxer bomb her here and there, so I'm
Me
sure I
too.
will. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Well, I have to say thank you to Lisa for a conversation full of incredible insights. And I've said it before many times that when I find a designer on Instagram, I go to the website. I want to learn about you, right? Sometimes the result is so generic that I don't get a sense of who you are, what you represent, and what sets you apart. And that's sad, actually. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like your average consumer. When I see something that you've done that's beautiful, I want to know more about you. I want to understand who you are, because if I were thinking of hiring you, I have to get that sense, right? And this is where that value proposition really comes through. Lisa said, the value proposition is the transformation that you can offer to your clients. It's the unique way that you get them to where they want to be. And like anything in your business, it needs to be clear and defined. It needs to be a non-negotiable for you to decide and figure this out for you and your business, okay? One thing that I love that Lisa pointed out and that I believe to be true is how different service-based businesses are, right? As designers, you are stepping into offering not a product, but yourself. Right? Your clients are buying you. They need to know who you are. They need to be able to get to know you, to trust you, to believe in you. This is why when we come to your website, it has to tell me who you are. Your name should be there. Your face should be there. What's important to you should be there. It should express to me all of those things, because I tell you all the time, I expect to find the pretty. That's the commodity. It's you that is, as Lisa said, the value proposition, right? And she pointed out that, product businesses have to prove themselves before they launch because the product has to work, right? But as service providers, we are unique. The value of what we do is harder to pin down, right? Our offering is a little bit more unique. And because of that, it is even more important that our messaging tells people what they can expect, right? I mean, if you come to my website and you think you're going to find something that says, oh, LuAnn would love to debate with you all day long, the value of saying if you are inspired from the palm trees or the green grasses. Like, no, like it's going to say, if you want to work with LuAnn, be prepared to hear the truth. Go see if you get that impression from my website. Right? Like, I don't say it in my inside voice on the website, right? But every single thing that we do that is me speaking is that sounds like you, Lou. That sounds like what you would say. And that, or I get presented with something. I'm like, I don't know that I would say it that way. That's a little too soft. That's a little too well, if you want to. It's consistently zoning in on what is your voice. Okay. And I know that that's interesting and that's sometimes hard because I have the experience. I remember when I was building my website with Nicole Heimer way back in the beginning. And she would say, well, what would you say if I asked you this? What would you say if I asked you that? And then I started to see it show up in the copy. And I was like, is that a little crazy? That's a little. And she's like, that's what you would say. And I was like, you're right. So that's what they have to read because we don't want them to read and see this, really very sweet thing and then get on the phone with me and like, oh, you're going to tell me like it is, right? So this is what I want you to find for you. What is it? How do you help and guide a client through your process? What is your way? Some of you have a way that's very sweet and very nurturing and very caring, and other have a very, let's get to the business and get the books out and let's get the tape measure out and whatever it is, because there's somebody out there that wants to do it your way. And that's what she's talking about, this value proposition. We love it when you know your niche too, but this value proposition is the other way to speak to your client and call out the way you do things, okay? So the biggest takeaway I want you to take away from this episode is you have to find this clarity. All right. It doesn't have to be written the most eloquently on a website if you've got to do it yourself as opposed to hiring people to do it and all the things. But it needs to sound like you. All right. And I want to just tell you, I've been recently working with branding and thought leadership coach Rachel Bosick. If you have not listened to her episode, she was in episode 651. And literally the entire time, I had never met her, never heard of her before I interviewed her. And the entire time during the interview, I'm going, I'm hiring her. I'm hiring her. I'm hiring her. And I did. Okay. So go back and listen to that episode. And I have to share with you some of the first things that we did when we worked together is she's like, Lou, you need to even make your niche statement and your bio even more zeroed in. Okay. You need to really, really hone in on this. And so that was a lot of the work that we did. It's the clarity, okay, and that definition of who you are and what you do that matters, okay? You can't just have it in your head. And that's a lot of times what happens. We have it in our head and we rely on it when we go to have that first discovery call with somebody. And we're like, oh, it'll come through then. But you need to breathe it into everything that you do, right? Okay, so that it be very obvious to the rest of us, because that gets us excited, and that gets us, if it speaks to us, it gets us excited to want to work with you, all right? Now, if you need some help on how to do this, okay, Lisa offers her Brave messaging toolkit that can help you define these things possibly and help you to put them in words for yourself, okay? So you can find that at scalingdeep.com/toolkit. Okay? Scalingdeep.com/toolkit. Of course, it'll be in the show notes. All right? I hope that you walk away from this and, you give yourself the gift of the time to get clear, whether you work on it yourself. In my the first Power Talk Friday Experts with Nicole Heimer, she has a whole thing where she walks you through it too. So you can do it by working with someone like Rachel. You can do it by working with someone like Lisa. You can do it if you're at the very beginning of your journey and all you can do is afford to invest in the price of a book right now. There are ways to do it. Just don't not do it, okay? Because when you put this in your messaging, you start to really transform your business and it starts to become the business that you envision for yourself, okay? And that's what I want for you. I want you to have the business, tongue twister there, the business that you have envisioned for yourself, okay? Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.